Howdy everyone, it's Reese, aka Bearman Prime, on this March 16th. Welcome back to my Read the Bible in a Year series. Thank you again for joining me. Start on the top right hand corner for the rest of the playlist, and please hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification bell if you're liking the series and want to stay caught up. So we started the book of Ruth yesterday. Ruth is a Moabite woman, a non-Jew from Moab, obviously, who married into the family of Naomi and her husband Elimelech. And of course, we saw how Elimelech and his two sons were killed or died for some reason, and so they left Naomi as a widow, and both Ruth and her sister and her other sister-in-law Orpah as widows as well. So Naomi decides to return back to her homeland in Judah, to Bethlehem, and pleads with her daughters-in-law to go back so they can find new husbands and live their own lives, basically. Orpah goes back. Ruth remains dedicated to Naomi and stays with her, and declares that Naomi's God will be her God, and nothing except death will keep them apart. So they both go back. Ruth stays with Naomi to support her. So now we're going to pick it up in Ruth chapter 2 today. There was a rich man named Boaz living in Bethlehem. Boaz was one of Naomi's close relatives from Elimelech's family. One day, Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "I think I will go to the fields. Maybe I can find someone who will be kind to me and let me gather the grain they leave in their field." Naomi said, "Fine, daughter, go ahead." So Ruth went to the fields. She followed the workers who were cutting the grain and gathered the grain that was left. It happened that part of the field belonged to Boaz, the man from Elimelech's family. Later, Boaz came to the field from Bethlehem and greeted his workers. He said, "The Lord be with you." And the workers answered, "And may the Lord bless you." Then Boaz spoke to his servant who was in charge of the workers. He asked, "Whose girl is that?" The servant answered, "She is the Moabite woman who came with Naomi from the country of Moab. She came early this morning and asked me if she could follow the workers and gather the grain that was left on the ground. She rested only a short time in that shelter." Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Listen, child. Stay here in my field to gather grain for yourself. There is no need for you to go to any other field. Continue following behind my women workers. Watch to see which fields they go into to cut the grain and follow them. I have warned the young men not to bother you. When you are thirsty, go and drink from the same water jug my men drink from." Then Ruth bowed very low to the ground. She said to Boaz, "I am a foreigner, so I'm surprised you even noticed me." Boaz answered her, "I know about all the help you have given to your mother-in-law, Naomi. I know you helped her even after your husband died. And I know that you left your father and mother and your own country and came here to this country. You did not know anyone from this country, but you came here with Naomi. The Lord will reward you for all the good things you have done. The Lord, the God of Israel, will pay you in full. You have come to him for safety, and he will protect you." Then Ruth said, "I hope I can continue to please you, sir. You are very kind. I am only a servant, not even one of your own servants. But you have said kind words to me and comforted me." At mealtime, Boaz told Ruth, "Come and eat some of our bread. Here, dip your bread in our vinegar." So Ruth sat down with the workers. Boaz gave her some roasted grain. Ruth ate until she was full, and there was some food left. Then Ruth got up and went back to work. Then Boaz told his servants, "Let Ruth gather even around the piles of grain. Don't stop her, and make her work easier by dropping some full heads of grain for her. Let her gather that grain. Don't tell her to stop." Verse 17. Ruth worked in the fields until evening. Then she separated the grain from the chaff. There was about 1/2 bushel of barley. Ruth carried the grain into town to show her mother-in-law what she had gathered. She also gave her the food that was left from lunch. Her mother-in-law asked her, "Where did you gather all this grain? Where did you work? Bless the man who noticed you." Then Ruth told her who she had worked with. She said, "The man I worked with today is a man named Boaz." Naomi told her daughter-in-law, "The Lord bless him. He has continued showing his kindness to the living as well as the dead." Then Naomi told her daughter-in-law, "Boaz is one of our relatives. He is one of our protectors." Then Ruth said, "Boaz also told me to come back and continue working. He said that I should work closely with his servants until the harvest is finished. Then Naomi said to her daughter-in-law Ruth, "It is good for you to continue working with his women servants. If you work in another field, some man might hurt you." So Ruth continued working closely with the women servants of Boaz. She gathered grain until the barley harvest was finished. She also worked there through the end of the wheat harvest. Ruth continued living with her mother-in-law Naomi. All right, so more blessings on Ruth for her kindness and her love for Naomi. Despite leaving behind everything in her homeland, she's stuck by Naomi, and she knew that she had to provide for them. So she is going to this grain field that she has no business being in, and she's just basically gathering scraps. The servants would come and they would start picking the grain stalks, and whatever just fell to the ground, they wouldn't bother because they had a lot to do, so they just kept going and going and going. And so Ruth would just come behind him and get what was left over. Not much, but it was something at least. And by the Lord's grace, Boaz noticed her. Boaz was obviously a very well-to-do man. He has lots of servants. He has a big field. He has obviously lots of money, good things. He's been blessed, and he decides that he needs to bless this woman too because she is being very helpful. She's going out of her way to support her mother-in-law Naomi, despite being a Moabite, right? And so the Lord blesses Ruth through Boaz, and Ruth feels very fortunate to be working in Boaz's field, and we'll see how much more blessed she will be later on in the last two chapters. So we'll stop there tonight, and we'll pick it up there tomorrow. Thank you again for joining me. I sure do appreciate it. See you tomorrow.